Algebra 1, spring test number 8, study guide. First one says find a solution to the following system of equations. This one is set up. Notice it doesn't tell you substitution or elimination, but it's set up for elimination because you have -5 and +5x. So combine them. When you combine those two, you get no more x's. 2y and 5y gives you +7y. And 5 and -5 gives you 0 right there. To get y by itself, divide by 7 on both sides. 0 divided by anything is 0. Remember, that's not enough for an answer. You need an x, y coordinate. So you got to plug it into one of the equations. I'll plug it into the second one just because I don't have to look at that negative. 5x plus 5y, or 5 times our new value of y, 0, equals 5. 5 times x is 5x. This part cancels out because it's times 0, equals 5. Divide by 5 on both sides. X is 1. So you have x and you have y. X comma y, 1, 0 is your solution. Okay, what's the solution to this one? This one's set up better for substitution. So when you write them side by side, it would be moved side by side. But this is your value for y. So in place of y, we can plug in -x plus 6 equals -5x minus 10. Move your smaller one over to your larger one. Add 5x. -1 plus 5x is +4x. Move your plus 6 over by subtracting it on both sides. 4x equals -16. Divide by 4 on both sides. X is -4. Again, you got an x value. That's not enough. You need a y value. Take one of your equations, go back to the top one if they look the same, and in place of x, plug in -4. Now it says negative already. Then we're plugging in the x value plus 6. And that x value we found was -4. So a negative times a negative is a +4. That'll be the mistake you might make. Y is 4 plus 6, or y is 10. X comma y, -4, 10 is the solution. Remember, that's the point where they're going to cross. That's the point that makes them correct. Makes both of them correct. Number 3. Graph them, tell whether it's one solution, infinitely many solutions, or no solutions. When you graph this, they both say mx plus b. You can look at it and see that both of the m values are the same. They're both -1. So that means those are parallel lines, or it's the exact same line. So once you find out the m value, look at the b value. If it's different, 4 and 3, that means they're parallel lines. So you know that they'll never cross. Since they'll never cross, they have no solution. When you graph these, you can graph them real quick. Y equals mx plus b. B's value is 1, 2, 3, 4. It crosses through there. It goes down 1 and to the right 1. There's the second point, so the first equation looks like that. The second equation is at 3, its b value. Down 1 and to the right 1. It'll go there. There's the parallel line there. That's the graph of them. Okay, number 4 says the sum of two numbers is 84. Their difference is 32. Their difference is 32. Write a system of equations that describes this situation. First thing, you got to know what the word sum means. That means to add them. You don't know what either one of these numbers is. So if you don't know what something is, remember you represent it with a variable. So x plus the other number you don't know, y, is 84. The other equation, since we're talking about a system, deals with this one. The difference, that means to subtract them. X minus y is 32. So you have two equations. This one's actually set up best to use elimination or the combination method because you have 1 as all of these coefficients. But look at your y coefficients, you have positive and -1. So when you combine these two equations, you're going to get 2x over here. And then 1y and -1y is going to eliminate or cancel that out. That part eliminates when you combine 84 and 32. When you combine 4 and 2, you get 6. 8 and 3, you're going to get 11. So you have an equation that says 2x is equal to 116. Divide by 2 on both sides. You know that the number 2 goes into 11 5 times, and it goes into 16 8 times. So x's value is 58. So one of the numbers is 58. In order to find out what the other number is, just sub that 58 back in place of one of the equations. They look the same. You could have used the bottom of the equation just the same. 58 plus y is equal to 84. And then to get y by itself, subtract both sides by 58 since this one's positive. 84 minus 58. 14 minus 8 is going to be 6. 7 minus 5 is 2. So your y value is 26. So the two numbers are 58 and 26. Solve this system using elimination. Again, this one's set up nice because your x's are in columns. They stacked. Your y's are also in columns, so your constant terms. And you have opposite terms, 4y and negative 4y. So when you combine them, 5x and 3x gives you 8x. 4y and negative 4y eliminates that part. It's gone. That was the idea. 9 and 31 is going to give us 40. So to get x by itself, divide both sides by 8, and x's value is 5. So once you have that one, plug it back in. If both of the equations look the same, plug it back into the top equation. If one of them looks substantially easier, you can use that one. 5 times your new value for x is 5, plus 4y equals 9. 5 times 5 is going to be 25, plus 4y equals 9. Excuse me, plus 4y equals 9. Subtract 25 on both sides since this one's positive. 15 minus 9 is going to be 6. So we're going to have negative 16 here. 4y equals negative 16. Divide both sides by 4. A negative divided by a positive is a negative, and 16 divided by 4 is 4. So you have an x and you have a y. You always write system solutions as x comma y or 5, negative 4. Number 6, you're writing the linear inequality shown in the graph. This one's, the picture comes out sloppy again, just like the last test, because of when it converts from a picture and stuff like that. But we can still look at the equation based on what's going on. We can see that it goes through here. It goes through at the y-intercept. That looks like it's at 2. So 1, 2. So that's going to be our b value right there. So our b value is 2. And it goes down. We need to get another point it can go through. This looks like another good point. It goes down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down 5 is negative 5, and it goes to the right 1. So your slope for that, remember, it's your rise over your run, how much it goes up and down over how much it goes to the right, negative 5 over 1. So if we were writing an equation out of that, it would simply be y equals mx plus b, and all you're going to do is plug in m's value and b's value. M's value is negative 5, so you'll drop it in right there, negative 5. You don't have to write it over 1. And b's value is where it crosses through the y-axis or the y-intercept at positive 2. So if it were just an equation, you'd be done. Y equals negative 5x plus 2, but it's not. It's an inequality that says everything's shaded on this big old nasty looking side over here. And again, on you guys' copy, it looks a whole lot better. Okay. So what we want to do, that's on the same side of 0, 0. Remember, 0, 0 is the one you want to try to use to prove if it's true or not, because that's the easiest number to multiply by. So what we're going to do is in place of y, we're going to plug in 0, and in place of x, we're going to plug in 0. Negative 5 times 0 is going to be 0. So that's why we like to use 0, 0, putting those two together. So 0 is something. 0 plus 2 is 2. We need to come up to make a true statement. It's true because 0, 0 is true. That's the direction it's shaded. So you know 0 is less than 2. And since it's a solid line and not a dashed line, you know it's not just less than, it's going to be less than or equal to. So the only thing you change about your equation from earlier, this y equals negative 5x plus 2 we came up with, is we're going to use that same symbol, less than or equal to. And this is your inequality to represent the picture shown. Number 7, solve this system using substitution. It's set up nice for substitution since you have y equaled all by itself. take that expression 3x plus 5 and substitute it in place of y. 3x plus 5 is equal to 4x plus 6. Now all you have is an equation with variables on both sides. Bring your smaller x to your larger one, subtract 3x. When you subtract it on both sides, you're going to be left with 1x here, plus 6 is equal to 5. When you subtract 6 on both sides, you'll have x's value equaled at -1. So once you have one value, x is -1, sub it back into one of the equations. It doesn't matter which one you use, but if they look the same, use the top one where you won't make a mistake. Y is equal to 3x, except we have a new x value, plus 5. Your new x value is now -1. So plug it in right there or sub it in. 3 times -1 we know is -3 plus 5. And -3 plus 5, y's value is 2. X comma y, remember, you're going to write it as an ordered pair all the time. -1, 2 is the solution to that system. Remember, that's the only place where when you graph it, that's the only place the two lines will cross each other. We're going to solve these by subbing. The easier one to sub in is this one just because it's shorter. So in place of y, we can plug that in right there. 2x is equal to 3x plus 10. So even though 3x is a larger value than 2x, we don't want to bring 2x over to the right because we have 10 over there. So we'll bring the larger value to the smaller one in this case. It's positive, so subtract it. If you subtract it there, do it here. 2x minus 3x is -x or -1x. Equals, you still have 10 on that side. Undo -1 times x by dividing it. A positive divided by negative is going to be a negative. 10 divided by 1 is 10. So you have x's value, plug it back in. 2x is easier than 3x plus 10. So y equals 2 times x, or 2 times our new value for x, which is -10. So sub it back in there. 2 times -10. Opposite signs, a positive times a negative is a negative. 2 times 10 is 20. You have x's value and y's value. Remember, it's always x comma y is an ordered pair. -10, -20. That's where they're going to cross. That's where if you graph the two equations, the only intersection that'll make both of them correct. That's why it's the solution to the system. Number 9 tells you to graph the inequality. This is mx plus b. So when you graph the inequality, you know b's value is 1. This is your y-axis. Remember, it's the y-axis because it's the one that goes up and down like a capital Y. So at b's value, it begins right there. Your m value, your mx part, your m value is -2. Remember, it's rise over run. How many times it rises or it goes up or down like an elevator over how many times it runs to the left and to the right. So that tells you to go down 2 and to the right 1. Down 2 and to the right 1. Down 1, 2, and to the right 1 will be your second point. If it were just an equation, you'd draw a line through there and you'd be done, but it's not. It's an inequality. It says y is greater than -2x plus 1. So what we want to do is we want to pick any point that's not on this line. The first difference between a line in an equation versus an inequality, remember, it's either a solid or a dashed line. This tells us, since it says simply greater than and not or equal to, that you're going to have a dashed line going through those 2 points. If it said or equal to, it'd be a solid line like an equation. It doesn't pass through 0, 0. Since it doesn't pass through 0, 0, we can check that's truth value. When I plug in 0, 0 into the inequality, I get 0 in place of y is greater than -2 times 0, or anything times 0 is going to be 0. That's why we like to use it. Plus 1, we get something that says 0 is greater than 1. Okay, that's not a true statement. So everything over here is going to be wrong. You're going to shade everything this way. Remember, there's also a shortcut to the top to determine which way to shade it. If you just look right near the y-axis, you're going to go above that since it says greater than. But some people don't like to do it that way. Number 10, you're writing a compound inequality. This one, since you're talking about just one variable, we're actually going to do it on a number line. It doesn't really specify that in the directions, but instead of doing it on a plane, on a 2-coordinate plane, we're going to do it on a number line. So it says we're writing a compound. Well, all real numbers at least -4. So x and -4. We have to determine what to put in there. Remember, it says at least. Think about if you have to go somewhere and you need at least $4. You're not going to bring 3. You're either going to bring 4 or you're going to bring everything larger than that. So in this case, it's not 4, but it's -4. But x represents what it is. X has to be greater than, because the big mouth eats the bigger number, or equal to, because -4 would work. The other one says at most 5. You're going to do the same thing with this one, x and 5, and we're going to determine what to put there. How long will you be there? Or at most 5 hours, at most 5 minutes, whatever it happens to be. You know it's not going to be 6. So the number x has to be smaller than 5, or it can be equal to, because you might be there for 5 of whatever it happens to be. So you have 2 inequalities right there, but we're not writing them separate. We're writing a compound inequality. Okay? The key to compound inequalities is this little bitty conjunction word and. Remember, it's either going to say and or it's going to say or. If it said or, you'd write the word or in the middle of them and you'd be done with that. But it does not say or, it says and. Since it says and, you're creating a compound inequality that has x in the middle. X is in the middle, the smaller number is first, and the larger number is after x. So all you have to do with this one is make it match the one that's in the same order. If we ignore this one over here, now all you're doing is looking at x, how it's related to 5. Make it match this one right here. It's going to say less than or equal to. And then once that one's matched, the other one has to go the same direction. You'll never have something with an x in the middle with one going this way and the other one going this way. That won't happen. So now your compound inequality is written. All you have to do is graph the solution. We're going to graph them on a number line again. You only need to show 2 numbers. Remember, when you're picking from a multiple choice test, you'll have more numbers on there, but you just want to show the numbers that you're dealing with. And then graph it according to this line here. That way you don't get confused. Look at the first one. It says x is greater than or equal to -4. So you know that that's going to be a bubble that's colored in. And since x is first and it's pointing this way, you know you're going to shade everything that way. Then do the same thing and go the other way. Ignore that other one. And it says x is less than or equal to -5. So it's another colored in bubble. Since it says or equal to, and the arrow's going that way, you shade everything that way. This is an and inequality, and you can see the overlapping area. Remember, with an and inequality, there'll always be an overlap. With an or inequality, there may not be. This one says write the compound inequality. There's always going to be an overlap with and inequalities. There's no overlap here. So this is going to be an or inequality. That's the first thing you can see. Look at this one over here. It's x and it's -5. You have to determine what to put in that spot right there. The other one here is x and it's 2. So all you got to do is determine what to put in those 2 spots. This one's shading everything this way. So we're going to put a symbol that looks that way. And it's an open bubble, so we're not going to say or equal to it, that one. The other one is a closed-in bubble, and it's shading everything that way. So we're going to go that way, and it's a closed-in bubble, so we're going to put or equal to. This is your compound inequality. Remember, just 2 of them separate with the word or in between. Finding the slope of these, remember, your slope formula is your y sub 2 minus y sub 1. The change of those over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Most people don't use that. Most people just say 3 minus 8. And then they say 8 minus 5. 3 minus 8 is -5. 8 minus 5 is 3. There's no numbers that go into both of those. So there's your slope value, -5/3. Write an equation given the slope and y-intercept. So you have an m and a b. That's simple. You write an equation that says y equals mx plus b. M is -5 and b is +9. Y equals -5x plus 9. Write an equation parallel to this one, passing through the given point. Y equals 2/3 x minus 9. This says mx plus b. You know that parallel lines, when you graph them, if you have to think about when you graph those 2 equations, or when you graph equations that are parallel, you know that they look like this. The thing that they share, or the thing they have in common, is they have the same slope. So if you're saying something's parallel to the thing that's given, its m value is going to be the same. So the only thing from this equation that interests you is its m value 2/3. The other part that's given in the problem is 3, -10. That's a point. So we're given a slope and we're given a point. So instead of trying to do it in mx plus b and instead of trying to do it in slope-intercept form, we'll write it in point-slope form. Remember, point-slope form is y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. So all you do with this one is you plug in y sub 1, m, and x sub 1. So your m value goes in just like it is, in place of m 2/3. Your x and y sub 1s are going to be the opposite of whatever's shown in the point that it goes through, because it's y minus y sub 1. So your x value says 3. So in place of your x sub 1, you're plugging in -3. Your y sub 1 value is -10. In place of your y sub 1 value, you're plugging in +10. Here is your equation in point slope form. Y plus 10 equals 2/3 times x minus 3. Okay, and then we're getting to the exponent stuff we started this week. -1.1 to the 0 power. Anything to the 0 power. Now this has a negative up front, but it's in parentheses. So anything to the 0 power is 1. This says -4 to the -3rd power. Remember, negative exponents, all that means is it rides the elevator. Negative is up front. This is -1. 4 is being raised to the -3rd power. Everything is considered over 1. So this goes down, it rides the elevator down. -1 over 4, and it comes to the +3rd power. 4 times 4 is 16, times 4 is 64. -1 over 64 is the simplified answer. 9 to the -2, it rides the elevator down. 1 stays up top, 9 comes down, it comes to the +2, 1 over 81.